All right, in this video, we are going to work through the following example. It says write an employee class based on the previous example. So if you haven't watched the video where we did this example about processing the payroll data file, then you probably need to take a look at that video first. All right, so write an employee class based on the previous example. It says write another program that converts the payroll underscore data.csv file to a binary file containing employee object data. All right, and then write another program that reads the binary file and produces another binary file containing the processed payroll data. It says the last program should also print the processed data to the screen. Okay, so let's take a look at how we would go about doing that. So first off, we need to write this employee class. So I would create a new Java class with class header and public class employee. And then here I would have all of the fields that I would need, right? The fields that are mentioned here, right? Plus gross pay and net pay are the other ones that we'll need. So start on that. So employee ID, private, and that's a string. Private string first name, private string last name, private string email, I think, private string title, and then private hours worked, which should be an int, and private double hourly rate. The other things we are going to need are gross pay and we are going to need net pay, right? Okay. So let's compile that, make sure it's going okay. All right, looks okay. All right, next up, let's make a constructor with these fields. All the way up to hourly rate. Because the other ones will just be calculated. Okay. All right, so and so here we will just set each field to the value passed to its parameters. So I forgot title. Okay, so we have all of these things set. And then what we would do is to calculate the gross pay, right? So the gross pay would be hours worked times the hourly rate, right? With the gross pay, I don't have to put this because there's no parameter for gross pay. We don't need that value, and it's not in the data file, right? We're going to calculate that. And you could use hours worked or hourly rate, but once I have these fields set, then I'm just going to use the fields to calculate that. And so I'm going to put the this on those. And then net pay is 0.94. For gross pay times gross pay. All right, this is not the kind of the best way to do that. The problem with that is that with having this 0.94 in there like that is it's a constant, right? And so or we should declare it as a constant, right? And it would just be easier to maintain that way. If you use this calculation in several places, we don't in this one, or we probably won't, but if you did, right, then it would be a much better idea to make a field up here private and then static and final double and give it a name like withholding rate equals 0.94, comma, like so. Static is because we don't, need, it's the same withholding rate for everybody, right? Assuming that it's the same withholding rate for everybody, it would be static, right? And that's how we're operating here. Everybody's net pay is 0.94. They didn't tell us otherwise, so we would just keep that. It's static, right? Everybody has a different employee ID, first name and last name, so that's why these can't be static, right? But every employee is going to have this, as far as we know, right? In this example, has the same withholding rate. Okay, and actually, the withholding rate is 0.6, right? If we're going to do it that way, so it would be 1 minus the withholding rate. Times the gross pay. So, okay. The final keyword, right, means that this will not be able to be changed, right? It's a constant. And then usually with constants in Java, the convention is to use all uppercase and use underscores instead of the camel casing. All right, and so that's what I've done here. That way, if the withholding rate changes, which it tends to do, right? Every year it's something different, right? When the laws change, then this number changes. That way you only have to change it in one place and you're done. Okay, so that's why we're going to do it that way. All right, let's try that and see how it goes. All right, everything looks good so far. All right, all right, we wrote an employee class that holds all of the data that we need. Okay, it says write another program that converts the payroll data to a binary file containing employee object data. Okay. All right. So I'm going to call this class payroll data to object data, and then creates a main method, public static void main string args. All right, and then we want a try with resources statement, and so we are reading a text file, right? So that would be file reader, fr equals new file reader. All right, and the name of the file is payroll underscore data dot csv. Okay, and then we're going to wrap that in a buffered reader. Like so. And then we're going to have to add the catch, right, for file not found exception. And IO exception. And let's just use the same messages as before. And we're going to have to put imports java.io.asterisk. All right, so far so good. Then what we want to do is to read the file, right? And so we would do string line equals br dot read line. So that will read a line in, and then while that line is not equal to null, we're gonna just print that line at first, and then we are going to read the new line. All right, so when we run that, it should print out the line. All right, so it looks good. What we really want to do is to split that out, right? So string parts equal line dot split, and we want to split around the comma character because this is a comma separated value file. Okay, so split that out. All right, and then what do we want to do with the parts? Well, some of those parts, ultimately we want to create an employee object, right? So we'll need to get all of this stuff split out. The thing that we'll have to convert, right, are these int worked and the hours worked and the hourly rate. We'll need to convert that because we have these as int and double. Okay, so int hours worked equals, let's see, I think that was parts 5, right, in our file. And so that would be integer.parseInt parts 5. And now if this is foreign to you about parts, this split and how this works, you need to go back and watch the previous video where we work this as just using text files. Okay. And then hourly rate was part 6, I believe. That was the 6th field in our data file. All right, let's try that and see how it goes. All right, so far so good. All right, so then next up what we want to do is create some employee objects. Oops, I am exactly putting that in the wrong spot. I just realized. All right, so this only actually does one of those. So let's cut that out, and it needs to be right down in here. I'm adding that in the wrong spot. Okay, and all right, so now we need to create our employee object. So part 0, right, is the employee ID. Parts 1 is the, I think it was parts 2 in our employee Okay, it's exactly like the file. So that would be parts 1, parts 2, parts 3, and then hourly rate. And it would be hourly rate, hours worked, then hourly rate, right? Remember what parts does is it reads in a line, and so it'll read in this file right here, or this line right here. It will split that line across each of the commas, okay? And then it will split that out into an array of strings. And so here we're just referring. So parts 0 would be ID number, parts 1 would be the first name, parts 2 the last name, parts 3, right, would be the email, and so on and so forth. I guess we need parts 4 as well for the title, which I keep forgetting. All right, let's try that and see how it goes. And I forgot a semicolon. All right, that looks good. Okay. Just to verify, right, that these employee objects are getting created, right, I could print those out. We are only, though, going to see the default toString when I do that. So you'll see this, right? The default toString that the employee object gets. So what I'm going to do is go in here and add a toString in here so I can see that a little bit better. And in the previous video, we did all the work about how we wanted this printed out. So I am just going to not go back through every single bit of that again. I am just going to go back through here and copy that out, that format out, and put it in here just to shorten things up a little bit. All right, so I'm going to return that string, and then instead of parts and everything, we'll have to use the actual field names right here. So this will be employee ID. This will be last name, because the report, they wanted the last name first, and then the first name. All right, that looks good. Except for, right, no semicolon. Good. Employee ID. Okay, I wrote it as employee ID with a lowercase d on the end. All right, so that looks good. Now, going back over here at payroll data to object data, I am going to suppress. Where is that other? Oh, up here. I'm just going to suppress this printing out. All right, so there we go. You can see I have all of the data here. Okay. All right, so next up I need to write this to a data file. Let's see, what do they want us to do? Yeah, I want to write it to a binary data file. Okay, so I think I probably need to revise this question a little bit. All right, so what I would want to do then is to create, goes back to, I'm going to use object output stream to write this to a binary file. So I need to create a file output stream. I'm going to call it object payroll. Data.bin, and then create an object output stream out equals new object output stream, and wrap that file output stream in the object output stream, or in an object output stream. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is when I create this object here, right, I am going to write it. So that would be out dot write object employee. All right, I'm going to suppress this printing as well. All right, so here I am writing an object. And again, forgot my semicolon up here for the third time this video. And that's not spelled right, it's output. All right, so that looks okay. All right, so now when I run this, right, I should get a binary file over here. So let's do it. And you can see there is the binary file when I open it up. Take a look at it. And right here, I realized I forgot. See, I get this Java io.non-serializable exception. I forgot to make my class serializable. So let's go back and do that. I'm going to close this out and delete it. So what I need is for this class to implement serializable. And in order for that to work, right, I'm going to have to import serializable. Import java.io.serializable. All right, so now when I compile this, all right, going back to payroll data to object data, let's do that. All right, and here's my binary file with the data in there. All right, so you can see, right, I have this binary file, all right, with all of the data in there. All right, so we've written a program that converts the payroll data over to the binary file containing the employee object data. And it says write another program that reads the binary data file and produces another binary file containing the processed payroll data. Basically, we just combine those two steps in there. So I don't know why I had this written in this manner like that. We just did the processing right up front, right, and converted it. So now it says the last program should also print the processed data to the screen, right? And that's easy enough, right? Because when we do this conversion, right, all we have to do is print the object that we're writing out. So if we want to see the converted data, we would just do it like that. And we can see all of the conversions here on the screen as well, right? And then we have this data file. So then what you would do right from there is, you know, probably run that process data file and then transfer money right into the accounts of the employees that have direct deposit. Okay, in the old days you would have written, printed some checks, right, for the employees. Okay, so I think I'm going to call it quits there. I think we've done pretty much everything here. I probably just really need to revise this and make it a little cleaner than it is. There's some unnecessary steps in there that we don't have to do. All right, and so that is it for this video.